Welcome to this video where we explore consumer decision-making process. We will look at the full process and we will explain in detail each and every step. We will also discuss when consumers might skip some of the stages and so forth. And it is a topic which fits into the larger chapter of consumer behavior. So consumer decision-making process looks something like this. There are 5 stages. We start with need recognition, then it goes to information search, evaluation of alternatives, purchase decision, and post-purchase behavior. As you can see, the actual purchase decision is part of the much larger buying process, starting with need recognition through to how you feel after making the purchase. As you can see, it starts long before the actual purchase, which is step number 4, and it continues long after. Marketeers want to be involved throughout the entire buying decision process. By the way, sometimes it's called buying decision process. And typically consumers pass through all 5 stages with every purchase. However, in more routine purchases such as buying, say, milk, bread and so forth, consumers often skip or reverse some of these stages. There can be also other cases. So we will discuss this. Now, the key questions you would ask in the consumer decision-making process, for example, need recognition. So as a marketeer, you want to understand when does it occur. Information search, you want to understand what has the greatest impact, perhaps which information sources consumers would consult and which ones would have the greatest influence. Evaluation of alternatives is a crucial, very important stage. Marketers do want to get involved big time, and they want to understand how do people evaluate alternatives, how do assign weights and so forth, what would make them change their mind and so forth. Purchase decision. Marketeers may want to understand why not top-ranked brands can be chosen at times. And post-purchase behavior is very important, in particular for more expensive items that we buy. And we want to understand, well, when consumers experience something called cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is a really interesting concept, and I could record perhaps a separate video on this, but let me just briefly explain to you. After each of the major purchases we make, as consumers, most of us will experience something like cognitive dissonance, which is uncomfortable thought in our heads that we had, where we doubt our decisions and think, have I made the right decision or not? Here I just illustrate with this example I found on internet, which I quite liked, because this girl is standing and she's saying, liars are bad people, but I just lied. It's that kind of a comfortable thought I have in my head. So is it okay or is it not okay? So in marketing, it's mainly like, say, I buy Mini Cooper. So was that a good idea to buy it or not? Or I buy Apple phone. Why did I not buy Samsung? Maybe I should have bought this. Maybe I lost some other benefits and so forth. So often we engage with this cognitive dissonance. Some brands really understand that. So for example, if you buy a BMW car and you drive off the dealership with a new car within a week or so, be sure to get a call from them where they want to check how satisfied you are, whether anything needs doing and so forth. So you can kind of think like from the brand's perspective, well, they did their sale, so why they should be interested? Because they want you to feel confident about your choices. You will be influencing other people's choices. You are also the one who will perhaps come back and buy the car again. So let me now explain in more detail consumer decision-making process. Okay, so need recognition. The need can be triggered by internal stimuli when one of a person's normal needs, for example, hunger or thirst, rises to a level high enough to become a drive. A need can be triggered also by external stimuli. For example, an ad or a discussion with a friend might get us thinking about buying a new car or a holiday. Or unpredictability, for example, broken washing machine, a car, mobile. So what is marketers' job here? Marketers' job is to understand customers' needs and try to perhaps at times trigger their demand. For example, if some customers want to lose weight, and you have some sort of innovative solution for that, but they may not be aware of that, so you want to make them aware of it. Now, information search. Consumers obtain information from many different sources, such as personal sources, family, friends, neighbors, and so forth. Commercial sources, which are coming usually from a business, like advertising, salespeople, dealer website, and so forth. These can be public sources, such as mass media, consumer rating organizations, internet searches, and so forth. These can be experiential sources like handling, examining, demonstrations, using the product. Generally, a customer receives most information about a product from commercial sources, those controlled by the marketeer. The most effective sources, however, tend to be personal. Commercial sources normally inform the buyer, but personal choices legitimize or evaluate products for a buyer. So you might ask at this stage, so where would influencers fit in? That's a really interesting one. Influencers, so they might be kind of commercial sources, if you like. We might be paid for doing what we're doing, but for consumers they might come across as more personal choices. There are some interesting like research papers on looking at the influencers and the role they make. And like if a consumer has been studying that particular influencer for some time, and then they watch the videos and so forth, they come across as more personal sources because you kind of develop trust, you like what they're doing, and you trust their recommendations and so forth. So this is kind of like crosses boundaries between personal and commercial sources, but it might be just as influential as personal sources. Now, evaluation of alternatives. So people would decide on alternatives, assign particular criteria, assign importance, and do rankings, whether it's conscious or subconscious. Marketers' job would be to identify your target customer's choice criteria and how they make those choices. And if you look at the purchase decision stage, generally, customer will want to buy the most preferred brand. However, there are some factors that can come between purchase intention and purchase decision. One of the factors is the attitude of someone. For example, if someone important to you thinks that you should buy the lowest priced car, then the chances of you buying a more expensive car are reduced. The other aspect might be unexpected situational factors. What if competitor dropped the price? So preferences and even purchase intentions do not always result in actual purchase. And finally, post-purchase behavior. A marketeer's job, as you know now, should not end with the product being bought. Almost all major purchases result in cognitive dissonance or discomfort caused by post-purchase conflict. For example, I remember I went to one of the conferences, one of the professors was talking about girls. How do girls or women behave after they buy shoes? Don't we just all go and do window shopping, and try all of the shoes and see whether, our choice was good? Consumers feel uneasy about acquiring the drawbacks of the chosen brand and about losing the benefits of the brands not purchased. So consumers feel at least some post-purchase dissonance for every purchase, in particular with major purchases or more expensive items. So it's important for us to monitor customer satisfaction and complaints. By studying the overall consumer decision-making process, marketeers may be able to find ways to help consumer move through it. If the customers are not buying because we do not perceive the need, well, marketers' job is to trigger the need. If consumers know about the product but hold unfavorable attitudes, marketers must find ways to change either the products or consumer perceptions. Let's have a look at the example. How would you choose a perfume for your mother on her birthday? So this is where we talk about evaluation of alternatives. So consumers will have something like evoked sets. Okay, so these are the interesting terms we use in marketing. May mean very little for consumers, and although we do it unconsciously, that's what we do. So we have evoked set. So these are the brands already known to the consumer and from which they can choose. Whilst there are 200 something different perfumes to choose from, say we know 10-15 brands, and these are the ones we will choose from. Then the next stage is consideration set. These are the brands from the evoked set which the customer will consider buying from, which represents something like classy, luxurious, shows your mother that she's special and you care for her. So for example, we choose like a couple of brands. The next stage is inept set. These are the brands which consumer is aware of but have already deemed unsuitable. For example, few people may consider Kim Kardashian a role model for mom. And inert set, brands which are not in the consumer's mind at all. We have never heard of it and it costs $800 per ounce. So these are the different types of sets that we consider when we evaluate different alternatives. And as you can see, that evoked set is quite an important one. That's why you will see so many brands that are particularly working on like bringing that awareness. We advertise lots and lots and lots, in other words, just to make sure that you at least think of that particular brand when making a purchase. Okay, so it's important to kind of like first enter that evoked set. Of course, not all consumers will follow the same decision-making process. And you can see, for example, if we buy a house, something that is a major, quite expensive purchase, we are very likely to engage with all 5 stages. And we will go through need recognition, information search, information of alternatives, purchase decision, post-purchase behavior. If we buy something like milk, perhaps not. It's just like purchase decision and that's it, because it's like more habitual thing we do. It's more out of routine. We don't really think about it. Even if we made the wrong choice, right? We can learn and do something different next time. And another thing, if we buy, say, a branded phone, or like we may buy iPhone from Apple, and say we have some other devices, we have a positive attitude towards the company, we use the devices, we trust them, so we may skip the first 3 stages and go to purchase decision and post-purchase behavior. So loyal customers tend to skip information search and even evaluation of alternative stages. So basically, just a little summary. Why would not all customers always follow the same decision-making process? Because law involvement products do not need us to follow the whole process. That would be just too much energy cost for our heads, if you like. Sometimes we buy out of impulse. Oh, this is on the deal. Oh, I really always wanted to buy that shirt. Sometimes it's because we are loyal to a particular organization. Other times we might be influenced by influencers, if you like. So there will be lots of different situations when we will skip a particular stage. But the general rule, the more kind of like expensive the product is, the more likely we're engaged with all stages.